Welcome back. We are in studio again. I've been out for a couple of days celebrating with my wife. This is December 7th, a day that will live in infamy, and it will for many reasons. We'll leave that one here. But yesterday was December 6th, obviously, my wife's birthday, and which is always a big event on our calendar. And the day before, no, 2 days before that, the 4th, was our dear friend and my adopted little sister Darlene's birthday. Happy birthday, sweetheart. You too. And so it's a big several days of celebration here in the Filipino colony of Cle Elum, Washington. Now, many of you know that we are refugees from Seattle Stand. And we barely got out with our lives a few years ago, just maybe about almost 3 years ago now. We bought a fifth-wheel trailer and in the dead of night snuck out of town before they could find us. And along with many other people, this whole area here is, when they say, do you live here? And you say, yes, I'm a refugee. They all go, yep, me too, lots of us. So, but I want to share something with you, and there's a point here, so stick with me. I think there's a story here worth telling, or I wouldn't be doing it. So first, a little bit of background that for those of you who may not be aware or may not know. Living with a Filipina is an incredible experience. There is a reason why millions of men all over the world go to the Philippines. And I always say everybody goes to the Philippines for wives and workers. Now, I don't mean this on any slam on any other culture or anything, but this is a very, very unique group of women. They are the backbone of their society. I'll leave that there for other times and conversation for a different day. But if you are married to a Filipina or know one, you know that it would be a common thing to go into a Target store, for instance, true story here, walk in, and within moments, she goes, oh, there's a Filipina, and be racing off across the store. Now, I can hardly see the woman, but my wife, Ems, has already established that she's a fellow countrywoman, and boom, they're off. And they're over there talking presumably in the native language. Whether it be Visaya or Tagalog or whatever, Cebuano. And they're over there talking, and I'm doing my shopping thing, whatever, and within moments, she's back, and she says, oh, that's so-and-so. I can't remember what the woman's name was in particular. She said, yes, we're going to their house Saturday night for dinner. Everybody's getting together. You see, Filipinas colonize everywhere they go. They find each other and they build a colony. And this is an amazing thing to watch. And so here we are in the little town of Cle Elum, Washington. And this used to be a town on the main highway many years ago that went all the way across the state. But when they put in Interstate 90, they bypassed a lot of these towns. They just gave them an exit on one end and an exit on the other end, and that's all you get, right? And yet these communities thrived. For the most part, there are some that just sort of dwindled away, but they are the on and off spots where people stop and get gas and they eat and whatever. But there is a small manufacturing company here in town that the Filipinas work at, and others. But whenever you move to an area like this for whatever purpose, maybe you are a refugee, they find each other, and pretty soon they start endorsing each other to work there, and boom, you're a part of the group, right? And they're always organizing get-togethers. Now, these get-togethers very, very socially significant, and they all surround food and karaoke, right? And just watching these women and subsequently their husbands come together, and I got to say, for the most part, not all, but much, These are younger women married to older men. Not necessarily older men, but older than they are. And this is another thing that's unique and interesting to the Filipino culture. The women, they value stability, financial generosity, they value loyalty. They as a general rule, are extremely loyal. They tend to be quite frugal with money. It's not all, but they're raised in a very, very difficult part of the world, and they work super hard. And they, for the most part, want a guy who's a little bit older than they are and financially stable and able to give they and their children, and by reflection, their families in the Philippines, a stability to be able to advance themselves and their family, both immediate family and an extended family like nieces, nephews, things like that. Now, in the United States, women tend to be very derogatory about this, and we catch flack all the time. What they don't understand is that through the history of the world for thousands of years, this is what women have done. This is what the smart women have done. They've looked through the society and they've picked the dominant, most stable, most secure males, and that's who they sought to mate with. It wasn't the pretty boy. It wasn't the young athletic guy necessarily. They didn't trust those guys. Historically, those guys were going away to war unless they had a family inheritance. And if they had a family inheritance, that was probably an arranged situation who they were going to marry between that big family and this big family. So if they wanted to elevate themselves and their family in stature, they looked to bond with men who could give them that stability, that dependability. So I'll give you a little framework there that every couple of weeks we have a get together, and it's all there's maybe 30 people there and food for 130. And then afterwards they divide everything all up and take it home, and that's what they take for their lunches for the next week. It's very common for my wife to cook and take a whole bunch of food to work and come home with as much or more than she left with, because they're all sharing. Here, I brought this, you brought that, and they eat communally like this. I never experienced this in my decades of Western life. It's just a very different culture in that way. So, we have organized a trip to Leavenworth, Washington. Now, if you don't know the area, that doesn't mean anything to you. Leavenworth is themed around a Bavarian village. And pretty much year-round, everything there, one way or another, is kind of oriented to Christmas, although it's also mountain stuff. It's up in a mountain pass, another pass that time forgot. And Leavenworth has built this culture, this industry of tourism, of being attractive. And it's again, Bavarian in its beer halls and bratwurst and, lots of that kind of culture. All the buildings are all Bavarian gingerbread themes and architecture and stuff like that. It's a wonderful place to visit. So we leave in the morning, and true to its nature, a road trip is kind of like sailing. It's not about getting where you're going as much as it's about going where you're getting. It's the experience of being together in a car or a sailboat, as it were, and you're just however long it takes, there's how long it takes to get there, because you're having so much fun. So we get there about 9 o'clock, which is early. It's not, the place isn't really up and open too much yet. And here's my story, right? We're getting to this. Bear with me. I needed to give you a little backdrop there. And we're all like family. There's, 2, 4, 7 people in our car, and there's 2 other cars full of people also. This is a caravan of sorts. So we're there, and first off, we're just kind of looking for, gee, is there any place open yet? It's 9 o'clock in the morning, and we park on the kind of east side of town, and we go into sort of the first group of buildings there, and there's a taffy shop, a confectionery that's open. And as we go in, of course, I say, hey, thanks for being open, guys. Oh, yeah. And I immediately meet Carrie. Now, Carrie is that girl in high school that was everybody's best friend, the social sprite. She's a pixie, right? She's just everywhere, bombing around the store, talking to people, whatever. And very, very quickly, Carrie and I meet each other, and we start talking. And she's sharing with me about her love of Leavenworth and the culture of hospitality, and how much she loves the community, and of course the struggle with the people coming in from the other side of the mountains who are trying to change the culture and be more corporate. She's trying to battle that, so we're having this great conversation. It's just wonderful. And then of course everybody else has kind of drifted out of the store, and I'm still meeting my new best friend Carrie. And so eventually, she's got some customer or something, and she makes this kind of move, right, to give me a hug. And stops, like, oh, And I just laughed. I said, no, I'm a hugger, Carrie. Come on, bring that in here. And here we are in the middle of this store, somebody I just met moments before, and we are in this full embrace of, hi, how you doing? So glad to meet you. You're my new best friend. And of course, I pull away. It's all great. And I said, do you guys sell like earmuffs? Because my wife wanted earmuffs. And the very, very nice young lady behind the counter says, here? And I looked around and realized I'm standing in a candy store, right? And I laughed. I said, oh, thank you so much for not pointing out that some moron just asked you if you sell earmuffs in the candy store. We all started laughing, right? So here's what Carrie does. Carrie says, no, we don't. But here, you need to meet the woman next door. She grabs me by the hand. Off down the hallway she goes, pulling me with her. Come on, you need to meet this. I'm sorry, I can't remember her name. Wonderful lady, too. She said, she's friendly, too. And we pop in here, and pretty soon I've got earmuffs for my wife. And we're visiting. And it was just this great experience. So we go out into the street area, and we're kind of walking down through town, and at one point we're still looking for what shops are open now, and I turn around and I look, and we're standing there talking, right? Then there's maybe 100 people in the area, and I'm standing there looking, and behind the scene, behind the person I'm talking to, a little girl about 4 years old, maybe, drops her hot chocolate. And it goes pew on the ground, right, all over the place. And she instantly, she just kind of puckers up, and before she could even burst into tears at losing her hot chocolate, her probably 6-year-old brother steps in, gives her his hot chocolate, and hugs her. I'm stunned. This is so cool. And so I broke off the conversation and he's comforting his little sister, who's now fine because brother's here, right? With the hot chocolate, come to the rescue. And I went over to the parents and I said, you guys, I just wanted to know, your kids are so awesome. And she said, yeah, he's a really good big brother to her. I said, you guys are doing it right. Congratulations. This is wonderful, right? It's just so beautiful. It was just this 6-year-old kid, doesn't even hesitate. He just hands over his hot chocolate to his little sister and gives her a hug, consoling her. So there was that kind of another magic moment there. So we go and we're into a couple of other stores, and by this time, my knees are barking at me that I need to go find some place to sit down for a few minutes, because they're all wandering around, and the gals are all taking selfies and pictures of the scenery and all this kind of stuff, which is great. So I kind of meander on down a ways, and there was a place down the street just a little bit where the guy was drying off the chairs because it had rained a lot the night before. And it was obviously some kind of a beer emporium, place there, a pub, if you will, whatever that is in Bavaria. And I go in because I'm just looking for a hot chocolate or a cup of coffee. Sorry. And so I go in and I'm kind of looking around because it's mostly obviously a beer place. It's a place full of steins and this lineup of all of these draft beers, et cetera, right? And I'm just wondering, do they even sell? They got to sell coffee here. And then I do see this little coffee thing over, and so I go over and I ask the guy, and he goes, "Oh yeah." So he says, "Yeah, just go ahead and get in line, and then when you come through, I'll get your coffee." I said, "Okay, great." So I go down towards the end of the line, and there is a very attractive, dark-haired woman, probably 40 years old or so, that's coming up, and she stops. She says, "Oh, I think you were here before me." I said, No. Go ahead. You go in." So she steps in front of me, and I said, "I'm just here for a cup of coffee, whatever." Or maybe she asked me what I wanted. I said, "Oh, just a cup. I'm just getting a cup of coffee." "Oh, okay." And I didn't realize at the time. She says, "You just want a cup of coffee?" I said, "Yeah, just a cup of coffee." So whatever. So we start talking. And she's from Mexico, no accent, right? So I knew she's raised in the United States, but she's from Mexico. And I said, "Oh, where in Mexico?" She says, "Guadalajara." And we just start chatting. And I don't know, you're just chatting about all kinds of things. Again, new best friend. And we're there having this chat. And I said, "Where are you from?" She said, "Mexico." I said, No. Where you living here?" She says, "Oh, I live in Puyallup. We're just over here with a bunch of friends." I said, "Great." And I said, it somehow came in that I'm an author because I work that into every conversation, right? Ask her if she likes to read. Yes, I read. I'm an author, da-da-da. And so I introduced myself, and her name, I think, was Marla, if I remember right. And if you pick up this, if you hear it and I got your name wrong, I apologize. Post a note here and scold me, okay? Because I hate it when I do that. But I'm pretty sure her name was Marla. And she was just delightful. When we get up to the point where she's paying for a drink, she says, "And I'm buying his coffee." I said, "No, you don't need it." She says, "Oh, no, it's fine. It's no problem." So we have this conversation. I give her one of my cards, and I said, "If you lived closer, I'd bring you a book as a thank you." But I said, I don't get down to Puyallup that often. So I said, if you like audios, go to Spotify, right? You know the drill, right? So here I am in town less than an hour, and I've encountered these wonderful people. And I go outside, we sit, we're a couple of us are sitting there drinking, and we decide they're hungry. By this time, it's after 10 o'clock. I don't know what's open that's serving food much. And I have a special restaurant in town there that I love. It's a subterranean restaurant, and there's a little sign out in front, just a little sign about the size of your computer monitor or something that hangs down, and it says something about burgers and beer or something like that, right? And so we go down, we go there. They weren't quite open. It was 10:30, but she's just getting ready to open. We go down, we're the first in line. Now we got all this group of Filipinas and their husbands, and us ordering food is a circus. It's, trying to explain what this food, what's that food, what's going on, and other. So we get all these people there. We finally get all this food ordered up. They were so accommodating. I wanted a bacon cheeseburger. They have the best French fries in the world. I've never had French fries this good. If your experience with French fries is limited to the big, chain places, you haven't had a good French fry. A good French fry is like a work of art, wonderful. And these guys really, they're hot and crispy and just the right amount of being cooked without being mushy. I mean, they're great. I loved this place for that, but they got great burgers and great everything. So, but I wanted a salad. Well, we don't have salads on the menu for the holidays. Da, 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 da. I said, but she said, but I'll see what the chef can do. She jumps back. She comes back. She says, yep, he'll make you a salad. It's this kind of human touch. Oh, and by the way, touch. When I was staying there talking to Marla, she physically touched me at least 3 times. My arm, my hand, something. Making a human connection. It's the brother comforting the little sister. A new friend, Carrie, hugging me. Marla touches my arm. I'm always telling my friends and my teammates, if you put yourself out there, if you just say hi to people, if you are available, like-hearted people will find each other. We are out there looking for connection. Human beings need this kind of embrace. We need to know that we can talk to people. We can laugh. We can hug. So we eat. Now it's time to go on the roller coaster there, which is kind of a cool thing, actually. And the girls, including my wife Ems, have gone off. They decided, a couple of others that they wanted earmuffs because they're worried about being cold on the 30-second ride down the mountain on the roller coaster. So they go back to the original place that I bought Ems earmuffs. And I'm there. We're walking back to the car with Karen, our dear, dear friend Karen. Now, Karen is like the third of us, right? We do all kinds of things with Karen. We always take her shopping. She doesn't drive. I always tease and tell we all laugh that she's the other wife. Nothing weird, folks. That's the point. We're such good friends. A man and a woman, just buddies, And so we're walking through town, and I know she's a Filipina. Her hands are going to be cold, right? So I reach down, I take her hand, and she just looks over and smiles at me. I said, I know your hands are cold. Give me that. So, yeah, she kind of gets a little closer to me, and she says, oh, your hands are so warm. I said, what's a husband for, right? That's kind of the joke. That's what my wife always said. What good's a husband, right? It's to keep your hands warm, to go get you coffee, to go do whatever. It's the joke. But here's Karen and I walking through town, talking about whatever we were talking about. I don't even remember. Holding hands. Because friends can do that. Friends can hug. Friends can say, I love you. Friends can hold hands while they're walking down the street. It doesn't have to be some weird making a pass thing. It doesn't have to be having an affair or making an untoward suggestion. It's just two people making contact. That we are not alone in this world. So the reason I'm sharing this with you especially is because I'm a ranter. It's kind of my thing, right? I get mad at the weird stuff that's going on in the world, and I feel like I can talk about this and explain some of it and expose some of it because we need to talk about those things. We need to work on being better at that stuff. And if we don't expose it, if we don't talk about it, we're not going to get better. We're just going to, kick that can down the road. Same old, same story, different day. But part of this is we are hungry for real connection. We need to talk more. We need to touch more. We need to share our lives, and we need to be able to have a friend and say, I love you. And if we don't cultivate that the way the Filipina colony does, if we don't cultivate that connection, it's very easily lost because people become uncomfortable with being touched. They become suspicious of anyone who reaches out to them, who says, hey, call me sometime, stay in touch. Oh, is this some weird guy that's trying to make a pass at me or whatever? No. We need to promote being together and being human. That's my message for today, December 7, 2025. I love you. Have a great day. And again, I'm going to see you next time. I'll be here.